is going on, everybody? What is going on, everybody? Welcome on in. My name is Richie Melora, live on Bleacher Report to give you all things New York Jets. Let's get into it, man. Free agency is right around the corner, and I am so pumped up for free agency. Jets fans, you should be too, because the New York Jets are making a lot of moves right now heading into free agency. We are live right now on Bleacher Report and YouTube at the same time, so everybody that's watching on YouTube, do me a gigantic favor. Go over to Bleacher Report and watch us live on the great BR app. Much love to everybody that stays tuned and stays connected with all things Jets here on Jets Media. We have a lot of things that we need to get into. First and foremost, let's talk about what happened today around the league. I mean, you talk about DK Metcalf requesting a trade. Could the New York Jets be interested in going after DK Metcalf? We have also a lot of other names potentially moving, whether it's Brandon Ayuk's name getting lifted into trade conversations, okay? We found out that the San Francisco 49ers have been fielding calls on Brandon Ayuk after they traded away Deebo Samuel to the Washington Commanders. Christian Kirk has been released from the Jacksonville Jaguars. That could be a target for the New York Jets as well, right? Tyler Lockett released from the Seattle Seahawks. That could be a target for the New York Jets, because you look at this Jets team, right? You look at this Jets team, and you got a lot of potential at the wide receiver position because of Garrett Wilson. Now, if the Jets did not have Garrett Wilson, I'd be obviously a lot more concerned about the current state of the New York Jets wide receiver position. But the good news is, folks, the Jets have a number one receiver that Jets fans should be very, very excited about. I don't want Jets fans to take for granted that Garrett Wilson is here. Back-to-back 1,000 receiving yards for Garrett Wilson. He's been in the league for 3 seasons, and he is balled every single season. Rookie of the year. I don't need to sit here and hype up Garrett Wilson. You guys know what he's capable of. And the best part about Garrett Wilson is he's just getting started. He hasn't even touched the prime. He hasn't even scratched the surface of where he is going as a wide receiver in this league. If you can give Garrett Wilson a wide receiver, right? If you can give him a wide receiver, then we can go out there and, not a wide receiver. If you give him a quarterback to develop with, then we're talking. You need to get Garrett Wilson a quarterback that he can learn from, develop for the long run, and that is a big question, where the New York Jets are going at the quarterback position in the 2025 draft in free agency. So let's start off with free agency, right? You talk about the Jets entering free agency. The Jets right now have $52 million in cap space after releasing Davante Adams. The Jets freed up around $30 million by releasing Davante Adams, and that was a no-brainer. I know there was a report that the Jets are going to potentially trade Davante Adams. I never really saw that as a realistic possibility. I always felt like the Jets were going to release Davante. Even when Darren Muji went out there at the Combine and was like, yeah, we're going to deal with that issue, he said, when it comes here. Like, okay, you're going to deal with that issue, it seems. So the Jets officially let go of Davante Adams. The experiment of Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams failed. We don't really need to talk more about that. We understand the situation. Right now, I feel like you look at the cap space the Jets have, you look at the wide receiver position, you look at the quarterback position. Those are not the only 2 positions that the Jets need help at, right? We don't have any safeties. We don't have any tight ends, right? Tyler Conklin is entering free agency. We don't have a linebacker. Jamian Sherwood is entering free agency, right? We have Quincy Williams and CJ Mosley, but Jamian Sherwood is a guy that you really hope can come in here and be a dog for the Jets' future. I love Jamian Sherwood, right? You look at the CB2 spot. DJ Reed is a pending free agent. He's most likely leaving, and also the Jets have a hole at right tackle. So I feel like there's a lot of holes that the New York Jets got to fix heading into free agency. You can't fix every single hole in free agency, of course, which is why there's the trade market, which is why there is the NFL draft that's coming up, which is really exciting because the Jets have a brand new head coach in place, a brand new front office, and that should give you a lot of excitement for this Jets team because there's an opportunity for new exciting things coming, whether it's a brand new quarterback. Everything's going to be fresh. Everything's going to be new for this Jets football team. So shout out to everybody tuning in live. We're live on Bleacher Report right now and YouTube. Hit that like button. Subscribe to us here at Bleacher Report more specifically. We appreciate everybody tuning in. And I feel like going into our targets for the New York Jets with $52 million in cap space, let's first talk about the quarterbacks. Justin Fields is linked to the New York Jets. should the New York Jets bring in the free agent? Now, we also know that the Pittsburgh Steelers want him to be their starting quarterback for 2025. And I would assume if Pittsburgh offers Justin Fields the starting job in Pittsburgh, I'd assume that Justin Fields is going to take that offer. I feel like the only chance the Jets have in getting Justin Fields in free agency is, number one, they offer more money, and number two, he doesn't want to be in Pittsburgh. Now, I'm not someone that is begging for Justin Fields to come to the New York Jets, but there's a lot of speculation that Justin Fields could be coming to the Jets. And if the Jets do sign Justin Fields, I still want them to be aggressive and draft a quarterback in the 2025 NFL draft. That's how I look at it. I do not look at Justin Fields as a potential long-term solution for the New York Jets. I think that he could be a good bridge quarterback, and maybe you find some type of energy in a bottle or whatever the saying is, lightning in a bottle with Justin Fields. We've seen Justin Fields be a similar prospect like Baker Mayfield, a first-round bust for Cleveland. Now look what he's doing in Tampa Bay. Sam Darnold, first-round bust. Now look at him. Geno Smith. Now he's over there in Seattle doing his thing. So Justin Fields has an opportunity to find a new home and maybe be a franchise quarterback. Maybe it's for Pittsburgh. Maybe it is for the New York Jets. And people bring up Garrett Wilson and Justin Fields' connection. They were teammates over in Ohio State. So obviously that is a connection that you want to make for the New York Jets and Justin Fields. But it really comes down to a lot of things. Do the Jets bring in Justin Fields for an open competition with Tyrod Taylor and a rookie quarterback? Because that's what I would prefer. I do not want to go into the season, just having one or two quarterbacks. I want three to compete. I know that sounds wild here, but we do not have a quarterback. Unless the Jets trade up for Cam Ward or trade up for Shedeur Sanders or something wild like that, then we're not going to know who the starting quarterback is going to be probably until training camp, because there's going to be an open competition. Now, there was a lot of people talking about Jordan Travis, the New York Jets quarterback that they brought in last year in the 5th round out of FSU. I don't know if the Jets have any plans with Jordan Travis moving forward. We found out that the Jets were a big reason why he had a setback last year, where his agents maybe want him out of the New York Jets organization, even though everything's different now. Robert Saleh's no longer there. It's going to be a brand new, different medical staff, new GM. Everything's brand new. So I wonder if Jordan Travis wants out or he wants to stay put. And does his coaching staff and Darren Muji believe that he could be a potential option for the Jets moving forward to compete for that backup job? I do not see Jordan Travis as a potential franchise quarterback for the Jets, but I see him maybe as a young guy, could have upside and compete for the quarterback 2, quarterback 3 position. So that's another name to keep in mind. There's obviously other quarterbacks that's going to be available. Jameis Winston is a veteran that the Jets could go into free agency and bring him in. I feel like Tyrod Taylor is your veteran, so I don't really understand why you bring in Jameis Winston. If you already have Tyrod Taylor on the roster, I'd rather go young if you go in free agency like Justin Fields. But of course, the big talking point with the New York Jets is who are they going to get in the 1st round? And I know that people want to skip over free agency and talk about the NFL draft. I get that. But in my opinion, it's really hard to evaluate the NFL draft until you get through the NFL free agency, because that's when all the holes are filled, and then you can see the other holes on the roster. For example, if the Jets go out there and sign Morgan Moses back, which we have to talk about, which is a possibility, then I don't really see the Jets investing high in a tackle, right? I feel like if the Jets bring back Tyler Conklin and sign 2 tight ends, maybe the Jets are not going to bring in Tyler Warren in the 1st round. So you got to be patient with this free agency class coming in, which is going to be next week, by the way. The Jets have a big opportunity to add a lot of new players in free agency now that they freed up the money by releasing Davante Adams. Now, Allen Lazard is currently still on this Jets team. He has 2 years left on his deal. The Jets could either 1, release him, 2, trade him, or bring him back on a restructured contract. I feel like the Jets, according to Adam Schefter of ESPN, are open to bringing him back, but they are allowing Allen Lazard permission to seek a trade. So in my opinion, get rid of Allen Lazard. I don't even want him. I mean, I feel like Allen Lazard has been a net negative for this Jets team since he got here. He has a few little, great games, but outside of that, he drops passes, has bad penalties, and just doesn't really provide anything. He was brought here because the Jets were going after Aaron Rodgers. The Jets got rid of Davante Adams, so I assume they're going to get rid of Allen Lazard as well, which frees up the wide receiver 2 position for the Jets immensely. The Jets really don't have anybody next to Garrett Wilson. So let's talk about the wide receiver position now. Garrett Wilson is a stud, and we need somebody next to him. Now, number one, are the Jets going to extend Garrett Wilson? I sure hope so. I think that the Jets extending Garrett Wilson this offseason would be absolutely smart. It's a no-brainer, in my opinion. He's young. He's done everything he needed to do in this league to provide a positive impact, and I think he's worth $30 million a year in this market. I think if you extend Garrett Wilson to a $30 million contract right now, I think you're going to look back at that contract years from now and think it's a good contract, in my opinion. That's just the talent he has and the upside he has. You're betting on him to become one of the elite wide receivers in the NFL. Get him a quarterback and watch what happens with Garrett Wilson. Now, who should the Jets target next to him? Right? There's some people saying Tim Patrick from Detroit, which is linked to the New York Jets. Some people are saying Josh Palmer from the Los Angeles Chargers, 2 wide receivers, according to Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic, is linked to the New York Jets in free agency. I can see the Jets go that route because they're both cheap. They're not going to cost a lot of money. Talking about Tim Patrick, he has a familiarity with the Denver Broncos organization. So Darren Muji has a good idea of Tim Patrick because he comes from the Denver Broncos. He was most previously with the Detroit Lions, so he obviously has some intel of Ben Johnson and Tanner Engstrand's offense that the Jets are implementing here. So he's a 31-year-old veteran that's a big body that can go out there and be a red zone threat and help install this brand new offense for the New York Jets. I mean, he wasn't with Detroit for a long time, but he definitely has some, experience in this offense the Jets are going to be implementing here. Now, Josh Palmer is definitely an intriguing guy. He's like a 25 years old. His contract value, his market value is probably around $5 million a year you can get him for, maybe a little bit more if his agent is good. I feel like there's some upside there. I would like the Jets to go after Josh Palmer as a potential free agent. Darius Slayton is another name I think the Jets can bring in, a solid vet that was always just there and reliable for the New York Giants. Another name is Hollywood Brown. I think that's more of a flashy name, coming off a bad injury in the preseason for the Kansas City Chiefs and went out there and, did what he needed to do for the Chiefs on a one-year deal. He got traded to the Kansas City Chiefs, I believe. So now the Jets could bring in Hollywood Brown next to Garrett Wilson. You guys let me know. Is there any wide receivers you want the Jets to target in particular in this upcoming free agency class? Because I think there's so many guys to keep in mind. Now, Christian Kirk is a very intriguing name. Now we found out today that he is going to be entering free agency because the Jacksonville Jaguars did indeed release him. So you talk about Christian Kirk. This is a guy who got paid a lot of money when he entered free agency for the first time. He left the Arizona Cardinals, was on the open market, and that was at the time a contract that people looked at was like, what was it, like a 4-year, $72 million contract? And people were like, Christian Kirk is getting paid that type of money? And then you look up and Christian Kirk is balling in Jacksonville. You're like, oh, that's a good contract, it seems. And now they got out of the contract because they drafted Brian Thomas Jr., the Jaguars. They believe in his upside. They love him as a wide receiver number 1. They're trying to free up some money to help out that Jacksonville Jaguars offense and defense around it. So I would like Christian Kirk as a nice in a nice addition to this Jets offense. I think he's still got a lot of juice left in the tank. He's coming off an injury, I believe. So you plug Christian Kirk in next to Garrett Wilson. And then, of course, we haven't even talked about this yet, but the Jets are going to be drafting a wide receiver in the 2025 NFL draft. So if I'm the Jets, when you look at the wide receiver group, you got Garrett Wilson, you sign 2 veterans in free agency, and then you draft a wide receiver, and that rounds out the wide receiver room with Garrett Wilson, 2 vets, Malachi Corley, and a new rookie. I think that's pretty much what's going to happen unless the Jets want to go crazy and take a big swing at a guy like Chris Godwin. I mean, Chris Godwin is entering free agency. Unfortunately for him, he is coming off a torn ACL, I believe. He blew his knee out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Is that someone you want to give a big contract? I don't know what his market value is right now since he did just get a big injury. But if he's going for a 1-year prove-it deal and he wants to come to the Jets, by all means, come to the Jets. Chris Godwin and Garrett Wilson would be fun to watch because you look around the NFL, and the Philadelphia Eagles are a perfect example of this. They have 2 number 1 receivers, A.J. Brown, Davante Smith, 2 number 1 receivers, and they just won the Super Bowl. Now, they also have Saquon Barkley, an elite offensive line, and, I mean, we can keep going. The Philadelphia Eagles defense, there's a reason why they won the Super Bowl. But I feel like the Jets have their number 1 receiver in Garrett Wilson, and I feel like if they want to be aggressive and trade for even DK Metcalf, that's another option, right? The Philadelphia Eagles, they traded for A.J. Brown, and then they drafted Davante Smith. If the Jets want to go that direction, we drafted Garrett Wilson, you trade for DK Metcalf, you give DK Metcalf an extension, and you extend Garrett Wilson. I don't know if you can afford both of them, but hey, you never know. With the cap space increasing every single year for the NFL, why not be aggressive? Go after DK Metcalf. I feel like DK and Garrett Wilson next to each other, and then you draft a wide receiver for the third guy, and then you got Malachi Corley still. I think that could be an option for the New York Jets. The Jets all of a sudden have a gigantic hole at the wide receiver position. In this league, you need like 5 solid receivers to make it. Especially you look at the Detroit Lions offense. You had Amon-Ra St. Brown, you had Jamison Williams taking the top off the defense. You had all these guys, Josh Reynolds, Tim Patrick. There were so many guys that had an impact on that offense, and it was Tanner Engstrand's job as the pass game coordinator in Detroit to feed all the mouths in the Detroit offense. So the Jets are going to really try to get as much weapons as possible and prioritize speed. So if you want speed, go after DK Metcalf, because that guy is physical, he's long, he can run. But from a realistic standpoint, I do not expect the Jets to land DK Metcalf. I really don't. That's just me being a Jets fan and being hopeful that we can land one of the top guys on the market, the trade market, that is. I think he's going to go to a team that's built to win now and could be a number one receiver. I don't really know if the Jets are going to be able to get him, and they're in that situation right now. I just don't think he fits the timeline for Aaron Glenn. If this happened next year and we were in year 2 of the system and we got our quarterback, maybe. But as of right now, I don't think the Jets are going to go the DK Metcalf direction. But of course, we got to talk about it as a possibility, because that's what the Jets are doing. Every single person that becomes available via the trade market or free agency, the Jets are talking about and seeing if it fits their plans for this upcoming season, because we don't know the type of players that Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji are going to try to bring in yet. And I'm really excited to see who they're going to be. Now, we did have a big report come out from Mark Garofalo, I believe, of NFL Network, saying that the New York Jets actually went through a medical test on right tackle who's a free agent, Morgan Moses. Now, this is a big deal, folks, because Morgan Moses would be awesome if the Jets were able to bring him back. Morgan Moses was the Jets' starting right tackle last year, and I feel like if the Jets are able to bring him back on a one-year deal or something like that, would be massive. So I'm going to put the post on your screen here in a second. So if you see it on your screen, Mike Garofalo of NFL Network had this to say. Ahead of free agency, offensive tackle Morgan Moses, right? He went through, he was given a clean bill of health, right? He was given a clean bill of health. And from the Jets medical staff, after meeting with them, the team says today, sources says Moses played through a grade 2 MCL sprain this past season. So this would be massive if the Jets were able to bring him back. According to the reports last month, they're expecting him to enter free agency and leave the Jets. But, bro, if the Jets can bring back Morgan Moses, that all of a sudden changes everything. All of a sudden, the Jets' offensive line is set from left to right. We literally do not need to make any additions to the starting 5 at the offensive line position. Then you just have to focus on the priority of the depth of the offensive line, because if you bring back Morgan Moses, then you have Morgan Moses at right tackle, but then you don't have any backups, right? We don't really have depth. But I think that's one of the underrated strengths of this Jets team entering free agency, in my opinion. I really, really do. If you look at the Jets offensive line, I made a whole video on it a few weeks ago about the offensive line. Olu Fashanu at left tackle. I mean, the Jets drafted him in the first round, and when he played last year, he looked polished. He looked like a veteran. He looked like he is going to be the Jets franchise left tackle for the foreseeable future, as long as he can stay healthy. And then John Simpson was a very underrated signing last year for the New York Jets at left guard. He's physical, great in the run game. His issue coming from Baltimore was penalties. Did not really have a lot of penalty issues with the New York Jets, so they got a no-brainer like there at left guard. Joe Tippmann going into year number 3, I think he's a franchise center. I mean, he's graded out as a top 5 center in the run game. His pass protection could definitely have some work, but he's somebody that is going to get better and better for the foreseeable future. Elijah Vera-Tucker entering his 5th year with the New York Jets. AVT's issue has always been health, and he stayed healthy last year. Him at right guard has been a joy to watch, develop, And then right tackle is, of course, the only hole the Jets have on the offensive line. And if we can bring back Morgan Moses and then draft a tackle in the 2025 NFL draft to sit and learn behind Morgan Moses, that he could be the future right tackle behind him, that is what I would do. Absolutely. If you're the Jets, you talk to Morgan Moses, be like, hey, we just had you in here to evaluate your medicals. It's a clear bill of health. All right, let's re-sign you on a 2-year deal even. I mean, Morgan Moses is a warrior. Even if he's hurt, he's playing through it. I absolutely love Morgan Moses, and the Jets bringing him back would be awesome. Absolutely awesome. So let's see if that happens. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about in today's show is who are the New York Jets going to re-sign, extend for the long run? That's a big question because the players that are eligible for a contract extension are all the players in that stacked draft class. Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, Jermaine Johnson, Jeremy Ruckert. That whole draft class is now eligible to be extended. Now, there's only 2 names I think that are realistically going to be talked about getting an extension for the Jets, and that is Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner. And if I'm the Jets, I don't look back. I extend them both. I know some people, let's start off with Sauce Gardner because I feel like there's some Jets fans that still disrespect Sauce, and after his season last year thinks he's trash and thinks he's an overrated cornerback. I could not disagree more. The guy's a 2-time All-Pro for a reason. And last year, he wasn't elite, but he wasn't bad either. He was right. He was good. He was a good corner last year. He gave up 1 touchdown, gave up like one of the least amount of receiving yards in the entire NFL. Of course, had some penalty issues and needs to improve some tackling. But with this new coaching staff coming in and Aaron Glenn, there's nobody built like Sauce Gardner in the NFL at that position. The size and athleticism, his length at that position is very, very unique. He's a unicorn out there, and that's someone I would 100% invest in the long run. And not to mention, Sauce Gardner is so loyal to the Jets. How awesome is it when you turn on social media and you actually have a Jets player glowing about the Jets and saying he wants to be a Jet long term? I love it here. That's rare. I feel like usually we have Jamal Adams on Twitter, get me out of here. Elijah Moore, get me out of here. You have all these guys at Jets draft become divas and want out. Sauce Gardner was drafted here, and he wants to be a Jet long-term. I love that. I feel like if you're the Jets, why not extend him now? And the reason why I would extend him now is because he's coming off a down year, and I think he's not going to have a down year next year. So I would lock down Sauce Gardner now because if you wait till next year and he balls out and gets another first-team All-Pro, then his price is going to skyrocket. So in my opinion, get Sauce Gardner now. I think you can get him on a $20 million a year deal, in my opinion. That would be perfect. I mean, that's right around the market for corners in this league. Now, talking about Garrett Wilson, I think Garrett Wilson deserves the contract he's about to get. I really, really do. I think Garrett Wilson is looking around $30 million a year on the open market. Well, luckily, he's not hitting the open market. He's under contract for the Jets, but you know what I mean. When the Jets negotiate an extension for Garrett Wilson, I think it's going to be around $30 million a year, and I think it's worth it. You look at what Garrett Wilson is, on and off the field, he's a dog. So let's start with him off the field. The big reason why I feel confident investing in Garrett Wilson is, number one, he stays healthy, and his mind separates himself from other players, in my opinion. He's such a good dude and has so much passion. He wears his heart in his sleeve in such a good way, right? You see all these wide receivers in the league, and sometimes they get really passionate, they get toxic. Well, Garrett Wilson is passionate. He's not toxic. He's a great teammate. Even when he's frustrated, he'll show it, but then he'll go and keep it real. And I feel like that's someone I want to invest in for the long run. He has great parents. He was brought up in a phenomenal family. And the reason why I know this is go watch the Jets Origins documentary on Garrett Wilson. It's a great story to see where he came from as a child to who he is now. He's a star human being. And if I'm the Jets, you want to pay and extend star human beings because you're trying to develop a culture here for the New York Jets with Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji. And if you want to establish a culture, you want to pay your own players that embodies that culture. And Garrett Wilson is the exact type of player, the exact type of human being that you want to pay to send a message to the rest of the Jets players. Like, if you can do what Garrett Wilson is doing on the field and off the field, you will get compensated, you will get extended long-term, and we will take care of you. So that's something I really hope the New York Jets take into consideration with Garrett Wilson. Now, talking some Jets players that are entering free agency of our own, Jamie Sherwood, DJ Reed, Tyler Conklin, Hassan Reddick. There's a few more that's not off the top of my head. But who are the Jets going to bring back, right? There's a rumor that the Jets are interested in bringing back linebacker Jamie Sherwood. DJ Reed most likely going to walk in free agency and get a big bag. Congratulations to you, DJ Reed. the Jets are going to prioritize extending Sauce Gardner. But Jameon Sherwood, I would love to bring back. I feel like his story and his progression and his development as a New York Jet linebacker was a joy to watch. He was drafted in the mid-rounds out of Auburn, turned in from a safety to a linebacker. If there's one thing Saleh knew how to do, it was develop linebackers. And he was developed under C.J. Mosley and under that coaching staff beautifully. And there is a chance that a team out there offers Jameon Sherwood a contract that the Jets can't match because the Jets don't have a lot of cash to work with. We have $52 million right now, but I feel like you could make some other restructures to free up some more money. The New York Jets bringing back Jameon Sherwood would definitely be a big plus. Every single Jets fan loves Jameon Sherwood. You got Quincy Williams, who was a first-team All-Pro 2 years ago. He's coming off a decent season last year, and you can also argue Quincy Williams might be asking for a pay upgrade, right? He's getting underpaid. I think he's entering the last year of his contract with the New York Jets, so the Jets could think about extending Quincy Williams as well. But the linebacker position is very up in the air with C.J. Mosley. Is he going to retire? Is he going to keep playing? Or is he going to restructure his deal? I think he's on the last year of his contract, so a lot of interesting decisions to be made at the linebacker position for the New York Jets. Talking about the tight ends now. Tyler Conklin, he's a free agent. I do think there's some interest in the Jets bringing back Tyler Conklin, but if you do bring back Conklin, you still got to add around him. I mean, I like Conklin, but he's just like average, and I feel like he doesn't penetrate that great status. And I feel like he's a great human being, great teammate, has upside. I mean, he can run routes, and over the middle, that cross route, that option route, it's unguardable with Tyler Conklin. I love it. He goes into the middle of the field, and he's just going to shimmy either left or right, and most likely he's open, and he has great hands. So I love Tyler Conklin. If the Jets bring him back, I'm down for it because we need depth at that position. You look at Tanner Engstrand's offense and what he's bringing from Detroit. They love their tight ends, and I feel like the Jets could go into this free agency class and get new tight ends. And, of course, the tight end draft class this year is really deep. I love Tyler Warren. I love there's a lot of tight ends I like. Elijah Arroyo from Miami. There's so many guys that the Jets are going to bring in at the tight end position, of course. So I feel like the Jets have a lot of options heading into free agency. We're going to have to figure out a way to take care of our own. As well, and I think Jameon Sherwood is a guy that I would take care of. I think Morgan Moses is a guy I would take care of, meaning bringing him back on this Jets team. And outside of that, Tony Adams is a restricted free agent, I believe. He's probably, I would see the Jets bringing him back. Isaiah Oliver, the Jets are also interested in bringing him back on a cheap contract. And one player that I'm excited to see that I feel like Jets fans have kind of forgot about is Michael Carter II. If the Jets did not extend him this past season, he'd be a free agent right now, but he's not, luckily. Luckily, Joe Douglas extended MC2. MC2 had a very frustrating season last year, dealing with a lot of injuries, and we know what Michael Carter II is capable of in the slot, one of the best slot corners in the league when he's healthy. So that's a really good thing here because this team needs a nickel corner to thrive under a Steve Wilks and Aaron Glenn type of defense. So Michael Carter II is locked up long-term for the New York Jets, and I feel like the secondary is going to be a big need. You look at the safety position. Now, there's one safety that I could see the Jets pursue if they really want to be aggressive, and that's Miami's Javon Holland. He's the best safety available, in my opinion. He's young at 26 years old, and I feel like at the end of the day, you see what he looked like in Miami. You plug that in with Aaron Glenn, you sign him in free agency, and then you draft someone a little early, day 2. I think that could be the Jets safety tandem. There's a lot of wiggle room for the New York Jets, big time. I want Tyler Warren round 1 if he can help in the run and pass game. If we can trade down and still snag him, even better. Also draft linebacker, safety, and defensive tackle. So there's a lot of people in the chat saying these things that we want to go after Tyler Warren in round 1, tight end out of Penn State. You guys let me know. Would you want the New York Jets to go after Tyler Warren from Penn State in the first round? The only way you can sell me on Tyler Warren is who's our quarterback? Because as of right now, we don't have one. I love Tyler Warren. I went into the film room and studied him, and I came away very impressed, and I feel like this guy would be very fun to be on this Jets football team, but we need a quarterback. So until I see who the Jets bring in free agency, I got to see, because that 7th overall pick may need to be either trading up for a quarterback or you don't take a quarterback there and you take a QB later in the draft. I don't know. There's a lot of options for this Jets football team, of course. So a lot of things that's going to happen. The Jets need a lot of players, but there's no bigger need on this Jets team than quarterback. There really isn't. And there's a lot of rumors that the Jets are one of the teams interested in trading up to the 1st overall pick, folks. Do you realize that the New York Jets and the New York Giants are 2 teams that have called the Tennessee Titans for the first overall pick for Cam Ward. If the Jets want to take a huge swing and go after Cam Ward from Miami, that would be a crazy way for Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji to enter their regime with the New York Jets. I love Cam Ward as a prospect. I think he has franchise quarterback written all over him, but the Jets would have to pay a huge price in order to land Cam Ward. This year's first, maybe this year's second, next year's first, maybe even next year's second, and then even a pick down the line. Is that worth taking a huge swing on Cam Ward? Maybe the Jets get Shedeur Sanders at pick number 7, or they have to trade up for him. Woo! There's a lot of things to talk about when it comes to the NFL draft, which I'm excited to talk about right here on Jets Media, on Bleacher Report, and on YouTube. The last thing I want to say is Jackson Dart, Ole Miss quarterback. He lit up the NFL Combine. I think that could be a target for the New York Jets in the first round. Not a pick number 7, but either a trade down scenario or the Jets trading up back into the first round from pick 42, I believe we have in the second round. Trade that pick up in the back end of the first round. Maybe we can do that. So there's a lot of options for the New York Jets heading into this offseason, and I'm very excited to break it all down. Next time we'll be live here on Bleacher Report. We'll be in the heart of free agency frenzy, so I'm really excited for that episode. Salute to everybody that's been tuning into Jets Media. My name is Richie, and I will see you guys in the next video. Love you all, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.